There was a study just done on why people take Social Security early. I think you'll find some of the answers quite surprising. In addition to that, I'm going to share with you some of the questions that you need to ask so that you can make the best Social Security decision for you and your family. But before we get there, subscribe to our channel, hit the notifications bell so you can be alerted to when we post new videos. I have over 30 years of experience in this field, and I think you may want to have some of this information. Now, I think you may be surprised that there's usually not one absolute answer that is right for you. Now, there are 567 different strategies to claim, and I know it is very confusing. And in this video, I want to share with you a couple of stories, the results from the study, and want to get to you those questions that you need to be asking. So let me share with you a couple of stories that will give you some sort of context in terms of the conversations we have with our clients and how you need to be thinking about this for yourself. So I just this week had a conversation with a woman who had called me in. She had been referred by a local accountant. And she said to me, I wanted to know when I should collect my Social Security. So I started asking her some questions. How old are you? What's your marital status? How much longer are you going to work? What kind of income are you bringing? And when we found out that she was pretty much middle America. She had about $250,000 to $300,000 worth of total assets beyond the condo. She wanted to continue to work as much because she wanted to, also because she felt like she had to. Most importantly, she was single. And we'll share with you in just a few moments why that's really important. But for her, the answer was more personal than it was, if you will, about money. Because for her, it was all about the break-even point. And I'll talk about that with you in just a few moments. But there really was not a clear, well, you must take it at 67, which she was, or you must wait till 70 and get the delayed credits. It really was a personal decision for her, and she ended up saying, you know what, I'd really like to start taking the money now. So that was her conclusion. The second story has more of a, if you will, best answer, but it was missed when they were talking to their advisor about their Social Security. And this was an attorney who had retired a number of years ago. He was making good money. He's married, and he'd been collecting on his Social Security. But what he didn't realize, and what his advisor didn't tell him, was that his spouse was eligible to collect a spousal benefit. And when we were chit-chatting, he's not a client of mine, just an acquaintance. And when he found out, he went back to the advisor, and the advisor said he just didn't know. So I told this individual to go call Social Security Administration, and what he found out was, yes, his wife could have been, for the past several years, been collecting off of his work record as a spousal benefit. And he did start collecting, and he did get some past benefits. But here there was actually a wrong answer, or a misinformed answer in terms of which strategies to take, because he took his, but was unaware that he could bring in some other planning with regards to another tactic for Social Security, which was with regards to his spouse. So depending upon your circumstance, there may be a very clear choice in terms of which tactic to take, and sometimes maybe it's just a personal choice. So let's go into some of the very important questions I have to ask in terms of understanding more about their situation, which you should be asking yourself as well. So here are 7 questions that I think you must ask yourself to help to identify for you and your family the best strategy to take. The number one question, what income do you need? But not just what income do you need now, but also later. Because you need an inflation-adjusted amount for the rest of this next chapter in life, and you need to clearly identify that. Second question, what income is actually coming in? Are you getting a pension? Will you go and continue to work and get a part-time income? Do you have rental income? So you need to identify not only how much you need, but how much is coming in. And then you can start to think about that Social Security aspect. The number 3 question is, once you identify what you need and what Social Security will come in, you have to recognize whether or not that is enough for you. Because retirement and Social Security, or the date you retire, can be impacted based on how much income you need and how much is coming in. So based on what's coming in and what Social Security is available for you, you may make a decision to retire at a later date. But that's a question that you have to ask yourself to identify what's important to you. The number 4 question to ask, and it's very, very important, what is your health status? In other words, how long do you think you're expected to live? One of our 7 calculators that we have takes into account the fact that you may have a normal life expectancy, or maybe you're blessed with good genes, or maybe you're on the other side and you may know that you or feel that you're not going to live as long. And that can certainly impact which strategy to take. The number 5 question, and you heard me ask it with our first story, was, are you married? Are you single, widowed, divorced? This is very important because many of the strategies deal with switching tactics, moving from one stage or chapter of life into another. And there may be other opportunities to take advanced or more sophisticated strategies depending upon the answer to whether or not you're married. The number 6 question is whether you plan to continue to work, because this can have an impact not just on your cash flow, but on the final question. The number 7 question is, what will be the tax implications? We have another video here on the impact of taxes by taking Social Security early, if you want to learn more about that. So I'm now going to share with you the 5 answers to the question, or what are the most popular reasons people take Social Security early. And there really was a surprising answer. It was in number 5. So wait for it, because I'm telling you, it may be the most important message I can share with you in this video. Now, this was a study authored by Jeffrey Schmidt, CPA and author, where he was trying to understand, as he put out a survey on the internet, as to what the number 1 reason was why people took Social Security early. And the answer was that they were going to pass before the break-even point. 56% of the people responded in this way. And let me share with you what that means and some of the thinking behind this. So let me take you to the next slide. So the first line item is time versus money. Now, what do I mean by that? Some people just may value time more than they value money. They know that they're retiring now. They want to get the most out of what they're doing right now. They may not be able to enjoy life as much later on. So they want to get their income now that will help to fuel some of the bucket list items that they have on their list. The second item is, and that you need to understand this, that if you take your Social Security benefit at age 62 versus age 70, there's somewhere in the vicinity of a 75 to 77% increase in the amount that you could get at age 70 versus if you started at age 62. And that brings us to the break-even point, which I mentioned as the number 1 reason. Now, what I mean by that is the following. if you take your Social Security at 62 versus starting at taking it at age 70, that you must live to at least age 78 in order for that decision to have made sense. In other words, if you live past the age of 78, you would have been better off to have started your Social Security at 70 versus at 62. Because again, you're getting more checks earlier, but you're getting bigger checks later if you had waited. So again, the answer here is for people, they felt that they were going to pass before their break-even point. Now, as you take a look at the longevity charts, and charts typically show us living to, mid-80s, depending upon we're male or female, we're basically saying it's okay, or at least the studies show, it's okay that we're not maxing out our income later on because we want to enjoy the journey now. And it is not as much about the money as it is joy of the journey. And this was the underlying message with my first story with the single 67-year-old woman who basically was saying, I just want to take it now. I just want to enjoy it. She felt she was going to live longer. She wasn't married, didn't have kids or spouses to take care of. So for her, taking it at 67 was a decision she felt was in her best interest. The second reason people took Social Security early was because they needed the money. 15% of people did. Sometimes life hands us a deck of cards that says, no matter what the quote-unquote best answer would be from a pure financial planning perspective as we're planning for the future, if you need the money now and you've got no other choice, then sometimes you just take it. And I know this can get very confusing. As I said, there's 567 different choices to make. But in my new book, okay, Don't Outlive Your Money in Retirement, 7 Key Steps, we have a chapter available to you. If you go to our banner, I'll get you this chapter which gives you all the questions you need to be asking and all the situations you need to be thinking about with regards to your Social Security, so you can be a little bit more informed about making the right decision for you. I'm going to give you the other 3 answers right now, but remember, the most surprising answer was the 5th one, and you really need to stay tuned for this one because it really, I believe, can help to give you some real insight in terms of how you might be thinking about it and what may or may not be the right decision for you. The number 3 answer was personal health. 12% of people responded here. Personal health is a big question you need to deal with. There are numbers of different strategies that deal with whether or not the primary worker or the worker who earned more money has good or bad health, and therefore your decisions will be based on the health of that individual. So it's really important to determine what the health is so you can know which strategy to employ. The number 4 reason is Social Security is going bankrupt. 11% of the people responded by saying they're going to take Social Security early because they don't believe it's going to be around later. And in another video that we have, we talk about this very issue. So make sure that you take a look at whether or not Social Security is going to go bankrupt. I think you'll be surprised. And now let's go to the number 5 answer, which from my perspective was very surprising, where a lot of people are making mistakes that are very costly. Here it is. The number 5 reason was that people wanted to unlock their spousal benefits. And here only 6% of people responded with this answer. This is shocking, to be honest with you. If you are married, or if you were married and are now divorced or widowed, there are significant spousal, widow, or survivorship benefits that you must be aware of. And I think this is the biggest mistake that people who are not truly informed make about when they take their Social Security. Because many people will take it early at 62, but not understanding the impact it could potentially have on their spouse. So I want you to make sure that you take a look at our playlist on Social Security so you can get even more information.